This song is for you clapping people. We really love you. 1, 2, 3, 4. Kill the fans because they love us. Kill the fans because they bug us. Kill the fans, they all adore us. Kill the fans, they fucking bore us. Kill the fans. get one more little ditty for you. Discord. Stay for the rest of the rock and roll. Thank you. Good night.
Is the center vocal the lead, or do you trade out some leads, or
Center vocals lead.
okay.
What do you want? What do you want?
And,
No.
give me that bass line vocal there.
Don't be like that.
Chickity check.
Okay.
I better
And then, are you actually switching between the bass and the washboard? It's another guy comes up and does
Another
washboard.
guy.
Okay, so that, I guess I didn't need to put that washboard mic right in front of you today.
That's this is the spot.
Oh, that's how it goes.
I tried to get a guy to
Oh,
walk
he's
around.
singing. He's the other guy. Alright, I guess we're ready to do
Is
some
my distortion level too?
That sounds just about right.
Okay.
Yeah,
I know you can tell me.
I'll listen for it.
I drove mine's up here. Mine's no, you do a real one. You can dance with puppy. I do like a very That's all right.
That's fine.
We feel like
How's that in your monitors? Did you hear it?
Yeah.
Cool.
remember to walk around the
Let's give her a
Check.
whirl.
We don't really need the washboard in the monitors.
That's right, I quit.
Can I get this? I'm hearing the house on this mic more than the monitors.
Okay. Seth over there is actually getting your monitors, so you know what? You could actually sneak some of that mic into mix 2. Probably would help him because he's got. Seth, you could probably mix some of that mic into mix 2. I'll come and do it.
La 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 la. That's maybe too much. Woo. La la. Yeah, perfect. La. Check, check. Sounds good to me. Check, check, check.
Did you see that trailer? Yeah. That was fun. Yeah, I bet. Did you mention he was in the Rebel Choir? Oh, and if he had like a garden outside? wrong. You say like, oh, like my uncle died. Yeah. Exactly.
Sven, can we get some banjo in the monitor?
In the Black Forest. We're meeting in the Black Forest.
Sounds good to me. Yeah. It's like a big rock show.
Yeah. Well, it's an operation. All this is casino.
already begun. The last one will be Violent Femmes at 9 o'clock.
Más presto, ven, paloma. Más presto, ven conmigo. Más presto, ven, querido. Corre, sálvame, 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 mi desma. Sufriendo de jamás.
He begins at 6 o'clock.
Is this roll call as well?
Yeah.
Like a ticket for tonight. About the
Mark, right?
Sufriendo de amor. Amor, amor, amor,
respect, but I got it just the same. See, I took the flowers and then she took away. You know she'll take it all, girl, and then she'll do the same. She's my pretty little city girl. She's my pretty little city girl. Well, she came over to the mat. I can't let her mind you alone. She drank me up on the table, and then she carried on. She don't want my baby, she don't want no diamond ring. My little city girl, you know she don't want no of these things. She's my pretty little city girl. She's my pretty little city girl. She knows what she wants, yeah, but she's a little confused. She knows she needs your love, girl, but she don't really need you. They ask her for flowers and then she'll throw them away. You know she'll take your love, girl, and then she'll do the same. She's my pretty little city girl. Yes, she's my pretty little city girl. My city girl, my city girl, my city, my city girl, my city girl, my city girl, my city girl. Well, I never meant to wreck your life. Some folks said I've done it twice, but I never even known them. Well, I was living that I thought I didn't really get along on me now. But the people's listening. So I don't know what you've been told, but I'm getting the cold shoulder and all my enemies, they've been exposed. And I'm not sure what you want, but I've been to be the first of my people into the girl. And I'm not pretending what I don't lie, I'm not even trying to hide the facts of my wrongdoing. So head to where tails are losing, looks like you've been moving on greener pasture. Now the time is right. Said you so let's talk on this up and realize it. I never do it again, but Thanks, everybody.
Welcome. Monster truck. Some madness. It's our first time at a big rock concert like this. Well, the sun's coming up, the party, it's long over. I'm out of gas, I can't drive around fast no more. I drank all of the backwash beers left on the table. And the last guess where she just crawled out the door. I say the last guess where she just crawled out the door. Why does it have to be morning after? Why do I have to stop to start again? Why does it have to be morning after? I'll wake and think about myself. Well, how come you look so good when I've been drinking? Why am I here with you and not with her? I got a sweet little girl at home, she says she loves me. I guess it's drinking, swearing, trash that out to her. I guess it's drinking, swearing, trash that out to her. Why does it have to be the morning after? Why do I have to stop to start again? Why does it have to be the morning after? I'll wake and think about myself. Woke up this morning with 4 stone walls around me. The windows barred, the doors are made of steel. Well, the sheriff came in, you know, and he told me there was 4 dead love behind the wheel. 4 dead love behind the wheel. Why does it have to be the morning after? Why do I have to stop to start again? Why does it have to be the morning after? I'll wake and think about myself. I'll wake and think about myself. I'll wake and think about myself. Well, thank you, everybody. Make sure you drink up. I hear there's lots of free wine.
There's people up there in the balcony.
These old bars on down, I'm gonna hang up my hair and cry, 'cause I was one of them ones that was long and black. So one day I thought to myself, plan it should be most of the mine. I'd sleep for a while, then the lunchbox in my hand. When I was getting caught, I may have getting fired, thought I figured by the time that I retired, I had myself a car with 1,000 grand. Damn, and it didn't cost me a dime. You see when I come to your town, drive around in this town, gonna drive on the just fine. You see when I come to your town. Day when I plunged in with a big lunchbox and helped my friends, I left that day with a lunchbox full of gears. And I never considered myself to be funky when I missed the one little piece of fish I snuck it out over 7 years. Cause I got me the transmission in the fuel pump, I got me the bumper and the trunk, I got me the crankshaft and all the chrome. All the little stuff I was in a big lunchbox under the 10 bolts and all the 4 shots with the bigger stuff I stuck in my mobile home. I got to put the time on it, it cost me a dime. You see when I come to your town, drive around in this town, don't drive on the bitches wild. You see when I come to your town. Now my plan going all right till we tried to put it together one night. That's when I realized something was definitely wrong. Well, the engineer was 51, the transmission turned out the bear 71, and when we put in the bolts, all the holes were gone. So we took it out so that it would fit, and with a little bit of help we made after kit, we had that engine turn just like a song. But the headlights was another side, we had two on the left and one on the right, and when we pulled off the switch, all three come on. And the tail end, I got a 1 and 2, all better together, we rolled through. That's when we realized we only had one kill on film. And about this time, a walk fall dog, you can see her now, she had her doubts, but she said, honey, take me for a spin. So I headed her right on main drive, got over the guilty tattoo, and everybody laughed, 2 miles around. I looked down the courthouse, singing loud, cause the top head over the whole outside, when they were double the time, weight 60 pounds. Down in the style, no time for bitches wild. You'll see when I come to your town. Say, Whiskey, what's that big diamond? What is it? That car, the Psycho Billy Cadillac. Well, I'll tell you, I went on down to the factory and I picked it on up. It's a little bit cheaper that way, you know what I'm saying, Big Diamond D?
I know what you're saying. You're telling me you stole it.
Well, yeah, I stole it, one piece at a time. Little piece of American pie.
And what year is this Psycho Billy Cadillac?
You want to know what year it is?
Uh-huh.
Huh. Well, I'll tell you what year it is. I tell you, it's a 49, don't be afraid to come up close and kick up some dust.
Careful, the harlots are out there.
We're proud to be Harlan. Thank you, love you. Love you. I don't know where I am.
the sea. So when I feel and I feel the dark, I don't feel the sea still. Stuff was lonely, the sun's eyes were straight. Yeah, nobody had it, but there was a horse right there on the sea still. I can't drive around fast no more. I drink all of the backwash beers left on the table. Last guess where she just crawled out the door. I say the last guess where she just crawled out the door. Why does the head beat more than after? Why do I have to stop to start again? Why does the head beat more than after? Don't wake and think about myself. Well, how come you look so good when I've been drinking? Why am I here with you and not with her? I got a sweet little girl at home, she says she loves me. I guess it's drinking, swearing, trash that I prefer. I guess it's drinking, swearing, trash that I prefer. Why does the head beat more than after? Why do I have to stop to start again? Why does the head beat more than after? Don't wake and think about myself. Woke up this morning with 4 stone walls around me. The windows barred, the doors are made of steel. Well, the sheriff came in, you know, and he told me there was 4 dead love behind the wheel. 4 dead love behind the wheel. Why does the head beat more than after? Why do I have to stop to start again? Well, thank you, everybody. Make sure you drink up. I hear there's lots of free wine.
There's people up there in the balcony.
I wanna do to working on the silver line. So we're still putting wheels on Cadillac. Well, every day what you do is miles on down. I wanna hang up my hair in the crowd. Cause the was one of them ones that was long and black. So one day I thought myself playing. It should be any most of the man. I'd sleep for all in the lunchbox in my hand. When I was getting caught, I may have getting fired. Thought I figured by the time that I retired, I had myself a car with 1,000 grand. Stay when I plunged in with a big lunchbox and up to my friends. I left that day with a lunchbox full of tears. And I never considered myself to be function when I missed the one little piece of fish I snuck it out over 7 years. So got me the transmission and the fuel pump, I got me the bumper and the trunk, I got me the crankshaft and all the chrome. All the little stuff I put in a big lunchbox under the 10 bolts and all the 4 shots with the bigger stuff I stuck in my mobile home. Now my plan going alright till we tried to put it together one night. That's when I realized something was definitely wrong. But the engineer was 51, the transmission turned out to be a 71, and when we put in the bolts, all the holes were gone. So we took it out so that it would fit, and with a little bit of help we made after kit, we had that engine turn just like a song. But the headlights was another side, we had two on the left and one on the right, and when we pulled out the switch, all three come on. Tail end, I got up on a 2, all of it together, we rolled through. That's when we realized we only had one tail fin. And about this time, I walked off, all you can see her now. She had her doubts, but she said, honey, take me for a spin. So I headed her right on Lane Drive. Got over the hills to tattoo, everybody laughed 4 miles around. I looked down the corner, I was sitting alive, cause the double head over the whole left side. When they was on the tire, weighed 60 pounds.
Say, whiskey.
What's that, Big Diamond? D.
What is that car? The Psycho Cadillac.
Well, I tell you, I went on down to the factory and I picked it on up. It's a little bit cheaper that way, you know what I'm saying, Big Diamond D?
I know what you're saying. You're telling me you stole it.
Well, yeah, I stole it. One piece at a time. Little piece of American pie.
And what year is this Psycho Cadillac?
You want to know what year it is?
Uh-huh.
Huh. Well, I'll tell you what year it is. I tell you, it's a 'em. Y'all don't be afraid to come up close and kick up some dust.
Careful, the harlots are out there.
We're proud to be harlots. Thank you, love you. Love you.
It's roadkill. Now it's too late to hit the brakes. Looks like now we're gonna eat some steaks. Oh, roadkill. Roadkill. I thank you, Lord, for this wonderful meal. That's not marmalade, that's another good. Roadkill. Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. So it's to the left, middle line. It's all free game and it all tastes fine. It's a roadkill. Roadkill. Don't blame me if I'm swerving a Bambi. I'm just a man trying to feed my family. It's a roadkill. It's a roadkill, Daddy. If you're a receiver of a little red beaver, you can eat them now or you can throw them in the freezer. It's a roadkill. Roadkill. Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. You got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. Well, I saw me a coon, I swerved to the right, I crashed my car and I almost died. Roadkill. There was blood on the bumper and dirt on the wheel like a dead end thing when he quit squealing. Roadkill. I got me a real sucker for the tire. Rubber don't smell good on the fire. Roadkill. This tastes kind of funny. And the bone is squishy on the skin is ripping, the heart's still popping and the blood is still going. Roadkill. Roadkill. Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. right. With PBR Street Gang.
Fucking outstanding.
Well, the beat is crushing and the steel is ripping, the heart's still pounding and the blood is still going. Roadkill.
Roadkill.
And you were on that way or something, but you didn't look far. Little bitty kitty just got hit by a car. Roadkill.
It's roadkill.
Now it's too late to hit the brakes. Looks like now we're gonna eat some steaks. Roadkill. I thank you, Lord, for this one to put me on. That's not marmalade, I'll never give it. Roadkill. Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. So it's to the left, middle line, it's all free game and it all tastes fine. It's a roadkill.
Roadkill.
Don't blame me if I'm swerving a Bambi. I'm just a man trying to feed my family. It's a roadkill. It's a roadkill, Daddy. If you're a receiver of a little red beaver, you can eat them now or you can throw them in the freezer. It's a roadkill.
Roadkill.
What's kill my heart away today? My heart away today. You got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. Well, I saw me a coon, I swerved to the right, I crashed my car and I almost died. Roadkill. There was blood on the bumper and dirt on the wheel like a dead infant who need quick squeal. There's a roadkill. I got me a real sucker for the tire. Rubber don't smell good on the fire. It's a roadkill.
This tastes kind of funny.
And the bone is pushing on the skin is ripping, the heart's still popping and the blood is still going. Roadkill.
Roadkill.
Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. Got to eat what's kill my heart away today. My heart away today. Woo!
Thanks y'all very much. With PBR Street Gang.
Fucking outstanding.
When he went and killed some men, they sent for the marshal to bring him in. They sent for Marshal Skin. He rode in town and that police kept my head down, 'cause everyone knows skinhead ain't allowed in Mohawk. Well, the sun was high and his mouth was dry, so we rode up to the saloon. Ordered himself some red eye. He knew he'd meet Johnson. Well, taking all the Mohawks sitting around the bar. He knew he'd found Mohawk Town, and John couldn't be too far. He rode in the town and police kept my head down, 'cause everyone knows skinhead ain't allowed in Mohawk. Out of the saloon, and there was no Hog John. Didn't have time to speak, both guns had just been drawn. Well, the Mohawk John was quick, but Skin shot straight and fast. He put a slug right in his heart and laid John on his back. He rode in the town and that police kept my head down, 'cause everyone knows skinhead ain't allowed in Mohawk. Mohawk Town.
tried so hard, but I never knew still waters were nothing to wait and nothing to drink. Nothing for a man to do but sit around and think. Nothing for a man to do but sit around and think. With a drinking and a drinking to the nothing, I ain't gone. Got breathed in the stink until finally I stoned. It was at that time, hey, I swear I lost my mind. I started making plans to be killing my own kind. I started making plans to be killing my own kind. Hear my daughter, I said the youngest one. Well, put your coat on, girl, yeah, we're gonna have some fun. We're going out to the mountain, yeah, we're going to explore. Face all it up as I headed out the door. Face all it up as I headed out the door. Hear my daughter, I'll carry the lantern. We're going up to the mountain, yeah, we're going to the cavern. We're going up to the mountain, yeah, we're going to the cave. We'll kiss your mother goodnight and remember that God saves. Yeah, kiss your mother goodnight and remember that God saves. To the mountain, to the deep dark well. Go on back west, girl, and promise not to tell. Well, close your eyes now and count to 7. You know you're Papa Rose, you and all children go to heaven. You know you're Papa Rose, you and all children go to heaven. Her up the push, and I gave her.
Yeah, we're ready, okay. actually not interested.
And my mother, Lucian, and I run it. And our mission statement is communicating, preserving, and extending the work of Charles Gradius. And all three of those things are important for us. You know, the communication part is certainly doing things like this, but also bringing these films out onto video, working with Herman Miller to be sure the quality standards are always great, and bringing back designs that are that need to be out, such as the DSVs we did recently, or the anniversary table. The preserving involves working with the Library of Congress. After Charles, after Ray died, our family donated a million items to the Library of Congress, 800,000 photographs. It's a pretty big number. It's actually 5% of the prints and photographs division of the Library of Congress, which is the largest collection in the world. So it's, photography is very important to them. We'll talk about that. And then preserving also includes taking care of the Eames House, where I'm lucky enough to have my office in Los Angeles. And then there are things like the extended part of it. There's projects like the Powers of 10 CD-ROM that I'm going to show you. So there's kind of two parts to this presentation. This is a CD-ROM we did called Powers of 10 Interactive, based on Charles Gray's film Powers of 10. And I'm going to kind of give you a spin around the disc. And I don't think you guys will be too daunted, but there's a bit of science in it. So if you're sort of waiting for the design punchline, don't worry, we'll get to it. We'll talk a little bit about Charles Gray's philosophy. But I want to sort of take you around what we're doing today. And he's had to introduce some of the things that were important to Charles Gray. Now, how many of you have seen Powers of 10? Okay. So I'm going to show a little initial clip from it. I'm going to show the first part of the film. For those of you who haven't seen this, I think it'll be a real treat, and you may in fact recognize it. For those of you who have seen the film, I want to give you something to think about in the context of it, because the Powers of 10 film is usually thought of as a science film. I bet a lot of you saw it in a science class or physics class in high school or college. But it's also a film about design. It's a film about constraints. Constraints were something that Charles Gray felt were key to the design process. And what's nice about this film is very constrained. It's an example of the liberating power of constraints as Charles Gray saw it, because it's a journey that's focused on one atom in one guy's hand, happens to be in Chicago. Yet simply by changing the frame of reference, you literally see the universe. So that's just another way to look at it. And we're going to share a little clip from it. And the Charles Gray actually made two versions, or three versions of the film. We're going to see the color version, which they made in 1977. So this is Powers of 10.
The picnic near the lakeside in Chicago was the start of a lazy afternoon, early one October. We begin with a scene 1 meter wide, which we view from just 1 meter away. Now, every 10 seconds, we will look from 10 times farther away, and our field of view will be 10 times wider. This square is 10 meters wide, and in 10 seconds, the next square will be 10 times as wide. Our picture will center on the picnickers, even after they've been lost to sight. 100 meters wide. The distance a man can run in 10 seconds. Cars crowd the highway. Powerboats lie at their docks. The colorful bleachers are Soldiers Field. This square is a kilometer wide, 1,000 meters. The distance a racing car can travel in 10 seconds. We see the great city on the lake shore. 10 to the 4th meters, 10 kilometers. The distance a supersonic airplane can travel in 10 seconds. We see first the rounded end of Lake Michigan, then the whole Great Lake, 10 to the 5th meters. The distance an orbiting satellite covers in 10 seconds. Long parades of clouds, the day's weather in the Midwest. 10 to the 6th, a 1 with 6 zeros, 1 million meters. Soon the Earth will show as a solid sphere. We are able to see the whole Earth now, just over a minute along the journey. The Earth diminishes into the distance, but those background stars are so much farther away, they do not yet appear to move. A line extends at the true speed of light. In 1 second, it half crosses the tilted orbit of the moon. we mark a small part of the path in which the Earth moves about the Sun. Now, the orbital paths of the neighbor planets, Venus and Mars, then Mercury. Entering our field of view is the glowing center of our solar system, the Sun. Followed by the massive outer planets, swinging wide in their big orbits. That our orbit belongs to Pluto. A fringe of a myriad comets too faint to see completes the solar system. To the 14th. As the solar system shrinks to one bright point in the distance, our sun is plainly now only one among the stars. Looking back from here, we know 4 southern constellations, still much as they appear from the far side of the Earth. This square is 10 to the 16th meters, 1 light year, not yet out to the next star. Our last 10-second step took us 10 light years further. The next will be 100. Our perspective changes so much in each step now that even the background stars will appear to converge. At last we pass the bright star Arcturus and some stars in the Dipper. Normal but quite unfamiliar stars and clouds of gas surround us as we traverse the Milky Way galaxy. Giant steps carry us into the outskirts of the galaxy. And as we pull away, we begin to see the great flat spiral facing us. The time and path we chose to leave Chicago has brought us out of the galaxy along a course nearly perpendicular to its disk. The 2 little satellite galaxies of our own are the clouds of Magellan. 10 to the 22nd power, 1,000,000 light years. Groups of galaxies bring a new level of structure to the scene. Glowing points are no longer single stars, but whole galaxies of stars seen as one. We pass the big Virgo cluster of galaxies among many others, 100 million light years out. As we approach the limit of our vision, we pause to start back home. This lonely scene, the galaxies like dust, is what most of space looks like. This happiness is normal. The richness of our own neighborhood is the exception. The trip back to the picnic on the lakefront will be a sped-up version, reducing the distance of the Earth's surface by 1 power of 10 every 2 seconds. In each 2 seconds, we will appear to cover 90% of the remaining distance back to Earth. Notice the alternation between great activity and relative inactivity. A rhythm that will continue all the way to our next goal, a proton in the nucleus of carbon atom beneath the skin of the hand of a sleeping man at the picnic. 10 to the 9th meters, 10 to the 8th, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We are back at our starting point. We slow up at 1 meter, 10 to the 0 number.
And then the journey continues on into its hand, then to a cell, then into the DNA of the cell, and then the nucleus of that. Now, is there anybody who had said they hadn't seen it or actually had? Because this is actually probably the most widely seen of the angiosperms, and one of the things we're trying to help people see who are working in the office is just how much they influence the way people saw it, or the way the 20th century saw itself, not just in the realm of furniture, but also in the realm of visuals. We'll talk a little bit more about that later. I'm going to return and give you kind of a quick spin around this CD-ROM, assuming the mouse will return. There we go. So what we did when we made the CD-ROM was we created 6 parallel journeys in scale. One which was the space journey, which is the red journey. Powers of 10 in time. And powers of 10 are long, apparently. So we had powers of 10 the tools people use to understand each power of 10. People journey, people who thought deeply about each power of 10. Something about Charles Gray's work related to power of 10, and finally patterns, which are different ways to slice time and space. And so one of the reasons I wanted us to see the open film again is to have a common vocabulary, because what we're going to talk about is slicing time and space in various ways. So what we did is that you can change the power of 10, change the exponent over here, and then say it goes to 10 to the 7th, which is about about 10,000 kilometers. That's roughly the diameter of the Earth. So all these icons change. You see something else from the space journey, time, tools, people, beams, and so on. And I'll show you that means we go up to 10 to the 21, which is the scale of the Milky Way galaxy. And that was the great flat spiral that you saw. So in the space journey, you would see a clip from the original film.
The time?
Time, as I said, we'll get back to. In the tools journey, we talk about radio telescopes, because that's a tool that people use to understand this powers of 10. But with all these choices, we weren't trying to say it's the only way to consider this power of 10, but sort of give some triangulation for the user of the CD about what each scale is about. In a way, the whole thing is about the history of mankind's curiosity filtered through the prism of scale. In the people journey, we chose this guy, George Hale, who he in his lifetime built 4 telescopes, which were the largest, each was the largest telescope in the world at the time. And so he's important not so much from his own science, but for the fact that he built the tools that help other people learn. And so one way of considering his work is this is an image of the Crab Nebula seen through his first telescope, and this is seen through the Palomar telescope. So he personally improved our focus. He was able, by this much, he was able to visualize these scales in his own way to help the other people like Hubble who went after him. In the Ames journey, we chose a film called Tops, and it relates to the Milky Way and we'll see in a second. That's just a clip from a film that Charles Wren made in the around 1970 or so. And one of the interesting things about it is the first time it was shown in public, it was shown by Philip Morrison, who was the narrator of the film Powers of 10. And Phil Morrison is an astrophysicist at MIT and is well known as a book reviewer at Scientific American for 30 years. But one of the interesting things about it is that he just finished doing an extremely sort of, you might call it, highbrow lecture on the mathematics of rotating galaxies to a group of his peers. And then he said, well, some friends of mine have just finished a film about some objects that behave exactly the same way. And he showed the film Tops. That's the first time I've seen it. And that sort of ability to bridge, connect art and science to really one of the marvelous things about Charles Wren's work. In the patterns journey, we call it the patterns strand. These are different ways to slice time and space. I would call this one sort of a vertical pattern. This is on spirals at different powers of 10. And we do have captions, but since I'm here, I'll tell you what I say. You start with the spiral of electron path. This is a superconducting thin film seen through a powerful microscope. DNA spiral, a beta gravel, and so on. And again, we're not trying to say we chose the best or only in the world, but it's a way of thinking about that power of 10 and then taking the journey on out to the spiral of the galaxy. A different kind of pattern that we play with is you see at 10 to the 20th, where here we're kind of embedded in the Milky Way galaxy. And this is images of the Milky Way from different cultures. This is Amazonian Indian tribes, image of the Milky Way, the Anaconda Path. The Lusanian Indians, or a California tribe, I believe the sports represented the Milky Way. Micronesian Milky Way. One of my favorites is the Siberian Shaman Song of the Milky Way. And again, we're not trying to say we chose the best cultures in the world from the standpoint of Milky Wayosity, whatever that would mean. What we're trying to do is, again, just kind of give a bit of a handle about the scale of power of 10. And And then at this power of 10, the tool we chose was the tool of myth and faith, because obviously people who use myth and faith as a way to understand the powers of 10 for a long time. And that allowed us in the Eames journey to choose, this is a church that Charles designed in Arkansas in the mid-30s.
Going into practice of architecture in 1930 is really something. And it's the greatest thing that could happen, because you practice architecture and you have to do everything. And we did some little churches, we did some houses and residences, and if there was sculpture to do, you carved the sculpture. If there's a mural to paint, you painted a mural. We designed vestments, we designed lighting fixtures and residences, rugs, carving. You help build a building.
And the idea about lighting fixtures is that as you walk down the aisle, you saw the moon and stars, but then after communion, you literally saw the light, you saw the sun on your way back. And it was a fixture that, and again, if you listen to that quote, we'll talk about later, that hands-on process, that learn by doing experience is very important to Charles. And yet it relates to this powers of 10 from the standpoint of the myth and technical. The person we chose here was Van Gogh, mostly because, there was, of course, the Starry Night, but he also said that the stars in the sky reminded him of the dots on the map of France, and we could use a train to travel to Rouen. Why can't we use color to travel to the stars? So, sort of a depressing take on mass transit, but aside from that, it's sort of like, people often associate death with sort of the unique powers of 10. Since I'm here in San Francisco, I actually grew up here. One of the fun things about doing this disc is I actually got to go up on top of the North Tower of the Golden Gate Bridge, which is pretty funny, or pretty fun, I should say. It was funny afterwards. But the person we chose here was a guy, it's 10 to the 3 meters, which is roughly a kilometer, and he, this man, Jawar Diwani, was in charge of the site of the retrofitting of the Golden Gate Bridge. So he had to think about this power of 10, because the Golden Gate Bridge is roughly this power of 10 long. So I interviewed him up there talking about how he thought about the scale.
We flew almost a mile and a half end to end. So in effect, we have to know how the earthquake affects the towers, which then affects the motion of the cables, which then affects the motion of the side spans, because they're all tied in together. They're not independent of each other. This support is so far off from the south approach that the earthquake that this tower will see will be different than the earthquake that the south tower will see. They won't possibly independent of each other. It's not the same earthquake motion. The distances are too long.
And with all these people that we worked with and talked to, we weren't trying to get any of them to come up and say, I'm famous because, or whatever. We're trying to get a little bit of a handle on how they thought about that scale, how they thought about that powers of 10. And yet we were trying to also explode and conceive. The caption here refers to the fact that we could just as easily have put him in the scale of the bolt that holds the bridge together, because he has to think about how all those forces come down. And a lot of this is about how the powers of 10 interrelate to one another. Then we have this little button, which is the free association button, which is it's the digital anthology, which is a 3,000-page document, which is a cross between the bibliography and going to the library yourself, so it's the transfers of all the images. And then we have these 3 free association buttons. They take you to 3 other places on the disk that relate in some way. So this takes you to the computer, because it's next to, this is the scale of the orbit of Venus and the Earth, because thanks to the computer, we're able to get this kind of image of the surface of Venus.
Computer-generated images of Venus, created with side-scanning radar data from the Magellan space probe, such a seemingly clear view of the surface, does not naturally occur on the planet.
And then you can keep on free associating other parts of the disk. The kind of map of this whole thing, the metaphor for the matrix of information here, is what we call the fish trap. And this bright green line tells you where Venus are. So we the Milky Way there, spirals, tops, Ellen Church, Van Gogh, George Hale, Raiders also. And so over time, they can build a map in your head of what the content of the disk is. Now, before I go to talk a little bit about the each work, I was trying to think of, a way to kind of look at what they've pulled off here at LIMS. So this is, what this is from our Powers of Time journey. And so I'm going to show you a time-lapse rendition of about 20 years, which is how long we've been here. It's another way to think about time.
When the 70s lit after almost 4 months, that would represent just 1/10 of the age of the Earth. We've constantly accelerated now. The slow dawn plays ever quicker on the table. At 1,000 seconds, 60 minutes and 40 seconds into the trip. Time for the third candle.
That's 2 to 3 seconds, 1,000 seconds.
It is the nature of our tenfold acceleration that all 4 of these candles will bring out within the next power of 10, and the 5th in seeming moments. Each day flies by now. The flowers soaks, the water in the crack evaporates slowly. 11 days, 1,000,000 or 10 to the 6 seconds already gone. Now a single orbit of the moon, now a full season. Now the scale of a human lifetime with a human face would be our mark. Just as in a microtime, more than one means of representation tells the story. 3 years, the girl's globe accelerates. Soon she'll be a woman of 31, a human generation, 1,000,000,000 seconds.
40 years is almost 1,000,000,000 seconds, so I think they've done a pretty good job here. It's just one way of noting when the 20th anniversary is about, just because it's about connecting in that way. Now I wanted to talk a little bit about Charles Ray's work, and one of the most there are a number of things that ways Charles Ray tried to express their design process, but one of the most important is this diagram that I'm going to show you. This is a diagram that they did that Charles did in about 1969 for the What Is Design show that they did at the Louvre. And it's blown up in full, hard to see the slide, so I'll kind of talk you through it. This area represents the area of interest and concern for the design office in that area. And this area represents the area of genuine interest to the client. And this sort of kidney-shaped area represents the area of interest, genuine interest to society. It's the area of overlap in the design of the work with enthusiasm and conviction. And I do think that almost half the story is in this very rich diagram, because this is truly how they approached things. That they found that area of overlap in everything they did, What I think is also important is that they define the client as part of the solution. Very often we hear designers being very frustrated with clients, and Charles Ray really felt that that was part of the thing that you needed to work out. One time an architect saw Charles give a talk, and one of the things Charles said sort of in passing was that the most important thing that an architect can do is to teach his client how to spend their own money. And the architect, this is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. This guy only does his chairs, he hasn't had a house in 30 years, why do I have to listen to him? But it kept sticking with him. And so he finally decided that he was just going to test it and then write to Charles about how in touch he was. And so the next guy walked in the door, he applied this philosophy. It was the best relationship with the client he ever had. It transformed the way he approached his architecture and his relationship with clients. And in a related context, Charles once said that the role of an architect is essentially that of a good host, anticipating the needs of the guest. And that guest-host relationship was extremely important to Charles Ray. At the same time as they did this diagram, they did a film called Design Q&A, which also touched on a lot of these matters. You just play a clip from it here relating to the idea of constraints that I talked about in connection with the powers of 10.
Does the creation of design have been constraint?
Design depends largely on constraints.
What?
The sum of all constraints. Here is one of the few effective keys to the design problem. The ability of the design designer to recognize as many of the constraints as possible. His willingness and enthusiasm for working within these constraints. Constraints of price, of size, of strength, of balance, of service, of time, and so forth. Each problem has its own peculiar list.
Design for windows.
Aren't constraints enough?
So those constraints they felt were really for the heart of it. It related to another idea that was important to them, and that was the honest use of materials. And one thing I want to just touch on is the way there's a kind of seamless connection between all the different kinds of work that Charles Ray did, and they explored the same idea in many different media. So I want to show you a clip from a film that's about the honest use of materials. It's a film called Todd for Toy Train, dated in 1957. This is just a little clip from it. Whose kids played at 6 in the morning, and they're woken up by the beautiful Elmer Bernstein in the store. But it still works on a lot of levels. Kids enjoy it, but you can also enjoy it as a statement about the honest use of materials. I'm just going to get something that and these toy trains. And for Charles and Ray, there's a really deep connection. Those trains aren't trying to hide what they're made of. The tin toys are obviously made of tin. It's very unself-conscious use of materials, and you see that same thing in these in the chairs. I'm sure you're all familiar with them, but they're not trying to hide anything. All the tooling and all the ideas are on the surface, and I think that's why many artists have been inspired by and connected to folk art, but Charles Ray took it a step further. They tried to get that the unself-conscious design process of folk art into their own process. Charles once said, the extent to which you have a design style is the extent to which you have not solved the design problem. That's actually a pretty brutal quote, because so much of design, sometimes it seems these days, is about getting yourself in there. And what Charles and Ray felt is that you didn't have to worry about that. Your you-ness, whatever that is, was going to be in everything you did. You didn't have to try to put it in there. What you had to worry about was doing a good job. Again, that was that connection that they saw between their work and, like a Hopi Kachina maker. The last thing you would want is that you would recognize his particular carving style of a Kachina. Now, if you were an expert, you probably can tell the difference, but he's not trying to put that difference in there. He's trying to get to the essence, address the need, get to the heart of the matter. Another medium that they explored the honest use of materials is their own house. And this is I think the computer is a little narcoleptic and it goes to sleep right away. But this is actually Ray's voice and talking about some of the choices when they're building the house.
I just so long to build it. By the time it really built, check out notes, probably really. So that's probably that last moment seemed overnight was changed. What Charles said, this is the smallest volume of the greatest amount of material. Let's see what the largest volume could be. In the same amount of material, that's like a game to me. Love. And it was almost overnight was changed to this house. That we not to love the meadow, but the idea of putting houses in the meadow was terrible at that moment.
Well, what she was saying is that they really fell in love with the meadow, and they had another design choice that they were considering, and they decided not to ruin the meadow, but instead to really respect it and use the same parts in a different way. For those of you who might not be familiar with that, I'm going to just show you just a quick thing about the Eames house itself. The Eames House is part of something called the Case Study Program, and this is the site of the Eames House before anything was built on. That's a Roman Eagle Industries that's still there. In 1945, Charles Eames Saarinen designed this house for that site. It was made of all off-the-shelf parts, and it was going to kind of cantilever on the hillside and land and all that metal. And what happened was that because it was right after the war, and they were using steel and pre-cut materials, it took a long time for these parts to be delivered. And then over the course of those 3 years, they realized they made the classic architectural error of choosing an extremely beautiful site and then obliterating it with the building. But they already had all the parts delivered, they were there, and they didn't want to wait any longer. So they almost treated it like a pile of Legos. They redesigned it for the same pile of parts. And they considered different configurations. But in the end, they only had to order like one extra beam, and that became the house that we just did the walkthrough for. And so these are some collages of the color scheme of the house. And this is the house being the retaining wall that goes behind the trees so they can preserve the trees. And what's interesting is when you visit it, it's so respectful of the landscape. Even though you could fairly describe it as a pair of steel boxes, it fits into the landscape in an extremely uncomfortable way. So again, here's another medium totally different, where they explored the honest use of materials. So again, there's a seamless connection between the way they approach things. I want to close with a couple of comments and then a little time for questions. The lounge chair, there's something else about the office, which was that Charles Wright created at their office in 901 a way to maximize the number of iterations of an idea, so they could really explore it and get to the heart of it. So the lounge chair, which I'm sure you're familiar with, the Eames lounge chair, if you're not, you're about to see a picture of it, took about 2 years to design. So much so that I think that Herman Miller may have been worried that there might never be a lounge chair. But it was a happy ending, and it did all work out. And then Herman Miller, they finally got it, but it took 2 years because they were just trying to get it right, trying to understand the real constraints and the real need, how to really solve this problem. But then, there was, Herman Miller got a spot for the announcement of the chair onto the Arlene Francis Home Show on NBC. And so it was in a week. And they thought, well, wouldn't it be cool to have a little film for that? So in about 5 days, they made a little short film called Lounge Chair about the assembly of the film. We'll see it. We'll see it. It's still not made today. So one of the nice things about those two stories is the sense of appropriateness. That there's some things that you really have to take as long as it takes to do it right. And there are other things that, they have another expression at the office, which is the best you can do between now and Tuesday is the kind of best you can do. And the trick, of course, is knowing which project is which belongs to. And they really have a finely tuned sense of that. There are a lot of other things I would be happy to share, but I would like to make it available for some questions. And I may have some images that go with some of the answers. So I wanted to conclude with a quote from Charles that for me really expresses why we do what we do at the office. And this is a quote that from a lecture that Charles gave at Harvard called the Norton Lectures in the like 1970 or 71. And so he was referring to the aquarium project. He was referring to as an aquarium that designer in the late 60s.
We're working on the aquarium. It's so natural we have an aquarium. But if those little animals feel too much of the strain too much of a current, though, they're very uneasy. The other hand to the pelagic areas, and if that current stops, they're in trouble. And I have a feeling the way that we as a society, as a group, are gradually becoming pelagic in our
as a mass production house, because they realize that with architecture, no matter how well you solve a problem, you're still just solving it for that one client. Whereas if you solve this problem, you're solving it for all the people. I think that was important.